Welcome back, students. If you are still here, it means I didn't put you to sleep in the last video, so thanks and welcome back. Let me finish what we were talking about. I just rewatched the first half of what I just saw, and I wanted to assure you that I know I went into a lot of detail. Maybe it seems obvious, but I assure you that everything that I said there, I've had someone ask me, and that was the answer to their question. So I'm just trying to make sure that everything is clear and out there for you. And I'm sorry that it is dry. I apologize. Okay, so next, talking about the grille de devoir. All right, we mentioned a bit how to handle the point de départ sections. I'd like to mention a little bit of a strategy to do that a little bit more, maybe more mindfully and effectively. Okay, so here's the thing. Normally, if I ask a student to come in and I say, a student says, I don't know how to study, I'm having trouble understanding this section, let's say the point de départ section, usually what I'll do is I'll ask them to sit in front of me and I'll say, so just pretend I'm not here, and can you just narrate to me how you would go through your homework? What would you do? Okay. Usually, not always, but usually, for example, if there's a point de départ or like a presentational vocab section that's assigned, then the person will open that page and then start at the beginning, and then the very beginning of the paragraph, and then go word by word, and say the fourth word is something that they don't recognize. So then they go to the dictionary, they get lost in the dictionary for 5 minutes, then they come back and they're like, okay, what was I saying? Then they start over at the first word. Okay, they get past the fourth word, and then they get stuck on the seventh word. Okay, this is what I call linear reading, and let me just say I don't find it useful or helpful in this context for you guys. So instead, I'd like to have you think about reading and interpreting the new French language material as a circular process that goes back and forth between making hypotheses and checking results, if you will. So say you have a text, and a long text in French, and then if you initially look at it at the beginning and you try to do word by word, maybe it's just too frustrating and you don't get anywhere with it. So instead, here's what I suggest. Okay, take a step back, kind of soften your gaze, look at the whole text, and see, are there any words that you already know that are familiar to you that jump out? Okay? Usually, even people who have very little experience in the language will have maybe 3 words out of 20 that jump out that they recognize because they're cognates from English or for some other reason. Okay? So then what you do is you take those 3 words, you can put them, maybe note them on a list of paper beside you, you look at those 3 words and you ask yourself, okay, if this was the only thing I knew about this text, this is the only data I had on this text, what might it be about? Okay. So, for example, say the words are chalk, think, pencil. Okay, so if you have all the other words you don't understand, but you see chalk, pencil, and so on, you see those 3, what is it probably about? And then you might speculate, well, maybe this is about a classroom. Okay, so then you have what you call reading hypothesis. Okay, you go back to the text and you test that hypothesis. So say that you have that in mind. Okay, I wonder if this is about a classroom. Are there any other words I can see that might have something to do with the classroom? So then maybe you would suddenly recognize the word for whiteboard, which maybe was off your radar before. Okay, and then maybe you might recognize the word for computer, and so forth. Okay, then you write those down and you repeat the process over and over. This is a really simplified version of somewhat advanced, super traditional way of interpreting text. But I really think that it's super useful for you at this level. So whenever there's a new vocabulary being presented, something new to read, or a new grammar structure, I'd like you to approach it in this circular. Okay, what jumps out at me? If that's all I had, what might this be about? Okay, is it about the first thing I hypothesize, and going back and forth in a circle until the text gets clearer and clearer. And once you get to the point that it's 50% clear to you, 60% clear to you, depending upon how complicated the text is, that is an excellent success, for somebody who is starting in the language. So at that point, give yourself credit. That's great. I welcome any sort of questions that you have. Send me an email. Find me in class. Also, I have an anonymous question pad available as part of the class materials. So if you want to know anything more about this, please let me know. I'm happy to help you out on that. Okay, so alongside that, remember how I said the person got stuck on the fourth word and went to the dictionary? I am advising you, I am strongly recommending, do everything you can to avoid using a dictionary. Instead, try to infer, interpret, make hypotheses based on what you have in front of you. Okay, if you go outside the text, you bring things in, you can get lost in dictionary definitions that themselves are maybe the wrong context and don't make sense here and so forth. So a person can actually lose a lot of valuable time. You want to maximize your time absorbing the most words that make sense to you, and that's, I think, one of the ways that you can develop your language skills. So on that, I think I will leave you, and once again, I invite your questions either in person, on the question pad, email, and I hope you have a really great first night of homework, and I'll be waiting here to see if you need any more help. So take care, and see you soon.